What's good, guys? Today I'm going to be teaching you how to create a Spring Boot application and connect it to front end, so we can be able to send information from front end application and send information to our back end application and save our information inside our database. So I'm gonna create like a lookalike front end Facebook, and then the lookalike front end Facebook will request for email and password, and then a user is supposed to input the two information, then send the information through post mapping into our database. So I'm going to show you how to create a backend with Spring Boot 3, connect it to a database, then after that create a front end and send information from the front end to the back end. Okay, so I hope you're gonna enjoy this video, man. Please, I'm on my way to 100 subscribers. I just started this channel not long ago. I'm on my way to 1,000 subscribers too. Please just subscribe to this channel, just click on the like button, support your boy, my man. Okay, let's do this thing together. Okay, just enjoy the video. Let's do this. The first thing is just go to Google and type Spring Boot initializer, and then this is the place where we're gonna create our own Spring Boot. So the language is Java, the project is Maven, then choose Spring Boot 3.1.1, any version is okay. Then project metadata, I want you to write Facebook data as the group, and also the artifact is supposed to be Facebook information. So that's the artifact ID, and then the description of the reason why we are creating this is create a Spring Boot app that allows me to save username and password. Yes. Then after that, the packaging will be jar, and then the Java version we're using is 17. So let's pick up the dependency. Our first one is data JPA and also Spring Web, because this is a Spring Web application. Choose Lombok 2 to reduce the boiler code. Then after that, Postgres drivers, because we are working with Postgres drivers. Then generate your code. Okay, then after that, open up IntelliJ IDEA and then import your project inside our IDE. Okay, so this is where we're gonna write our code. So this is the full file that we have generated, and then this is the Spring Boot application. This is the main entrance to the application. So I'm gonna go ahead and create our first class, which is username. This one is gonna map, we're gonna map it to our database. Okay, so this is a table that we are creating inside our database. So we're gonna map this inside our database. For us to do that, we're gonna inject it with @IDE. Then we also have to generate value, which is it's gonna be identity. Then after that, we're gonna annotate it with that getters and setters, and also all args constructors, and also no args constructors, and also we're gonna annotate with the table and entity. Once we put the entity, you see that the table has been mounted to our database. So the ID is supposed to be private, and then the string, we're gonna pick up email, because we want to take emails, and also we're gonna do password, because we're gonna pick email and password from our users and save it inside our database. As you can see, once we annotated with the entity, we mounted it to our database. So let's go ahead and create the next file, which is it's gonna be an interface, and then this interface, we're gonna name it as user interface, the user repository. Okay, this is gonna be an interface, user repository, and then we're gonna extend JPA because we want to mount our table to our database. So we're going to pick up the user, okay, inject the user, and then we check the ID, which is long over there, and then we're going to annotate with repository, which is not important, but we will do it here. Then the next class you're going to create is a service class, which we're going to call it a user service. Okay, then inside here we're gonna annotate it with at service. Okay, then here we're gonna create a private final. Then we're gonna inject our user repository in it. Okay, so we're gonna say user repository. Good. Then we're gonna create a constructor inside the user service. So it's gonna be public user service. Then I'm gonna inject user repository. Okay, then after that we're gonna say this dot user repository is equals to user repository. So this is our constructor. Okay, then we're gonna annotate with auto wired. Then after that I'm trying to get that error out, so I'm trying to check the syntax. Yeah, so this syntax here, so I'm gonna go to highlight, sorry, so I'm gonna click on highlight, then syntax. It's gonna take that error out. Then the next file is gonna be the next class is gonna be user controller. This is where we're gonna handle the APIs. Okay, and we're gonna do a post mapping for this one. So we're gonna annotate it at REST controller, and also we're gonna do REST mapping. Here we're gonna create a path that will help us send information inside our database, and it's gonna be /API version 1, and then this is gonna be users. That's a path. Then after that we're gonna inject our user service. Okay, so you're gonna say private user, then user service. Then after that you're gonna create a constructor. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna click here and then just say add constructor parameter, and it's gonna add the constructor. Then you can annotate it with auto wired, which is important, but it's not that important too. Okay, so nowadays we don't do that, but we're gonna do that for this one. Then after that let's do a post mapping, so we can be able to send our data inside our database. So I'm gonna say public, and then I'm gonna say response entity. Then inside I'm gonna write user, which is the class that we are mounted into our database, and then I'm gonna say create user. Okay, inside our user class. Okay, then inside here I'm gonna inject our at request body, and the request body is gonna accept users. Okay, and then after that I'm gonna say users. Okay, user create user, which is equals to now the user service, which we have already injected. Okay, so that we can be able to create a method inside our user service. Okay, so once we're done, the next thing is just, we have the red sign here, just click it and say create a method inside our user service. This is going to create a method that will save data inside our database. So over here I'm going to say return, then user repository. Okay, and then save users inside our database, and job is done. Then after that go back to our request map user controller and say return new response entity, and we're gonna return created user. Okay, so that's what we're gonna return back. So I think we are done here. Oh, sorry. Let me change that. So great, it's all the same. So I think we are done here. So this is a post mapping. We're gonna do a post mapping. Then inside our application property, I'm gonna change this actually to YAML. Okay, I'm gonna use YAML. So I'm saying application property. I'm gonna write some properties in here. Okay, so the first one we're gonna start with is server. Okay, and then we're gonna say our port is gonna be running at 8080. Okay, then we're also gonna give it a name. Our Spring Boot application name is gonna be I'm gonna write it as users. So then after that, I'm gonna say data source, which is gonna be drivers class name, which is this one here. I'm gonna copy some code and paste here. So I'm gonna then the next one, the URL. This is our database. This is our data source. We have to specify the driver, and the class name is Postgres, and then the URL, I'm gonna copy some code and post it here, which this is the URL. And then here we need to write the name of our database, which is Facebook. So we're gonna create a database known as Facebook. Okay, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. Then after that, we're gonna do username, and I'm gonna say the username is Postgres, since we're connecting it to Postgres. And then I'm gonna create a password, which is gonna be password. Okay, then after that, I'm gonna do JPA and Hibernate. Okay, which is gonna be DDL auto and create and drop. So this is gonna create user inside our database and drop it once we restart our database. So we're gonna have show SQL, which is true, and then our properties over here is gonna be Hibernate, and then the dialect is I'm gonna copy some code and paste here. Just write exactly what you see. Okay, just write exactly what you see. Then down here we're gonna have our format SQL, which is true. Okay, and then over here I'm gonna change this to, let me see, this Postgres is supposed to be, no, just take out the S. Okay, so format, it's all the same, format SQL, which is true. So it's okay, it's the same, it's okay. Okay, then after that I'm gonna run my application, and if I run the application, we are receiving some error because we need to connect our application to our database, and this is what we're gonna do just right now. I'm gonna show you how to connect our application into our Postgres database. Okay, since we have our application application.yaml. So create a folder inside our computer, call it db data. Okay, then after that I want you to cd inside the desktop, then type ls, and we're gonna find our type ls so we can see the list of information inside our desktop. Then I'm gonna take that db data, copy and paste it, and cd inside our db data. Let's check the version of the Docker that we are running. That's the version 23.0.5. Then also let's check the Docker network, because we have to create a network so that we can be able to connect our database to our application. But I think I made a mistake here, so I'm gonna type Docker network rm to delete the DB that we created. I don't have a DB. Oh, okay, I need to start our Postgres. So let me start the Postgres. Okay, no, let me start the Docker. Actually, make sure that you have installed Docker inside your computer and start it. Okay, install Docker. Go to the website and install Docker. So once you install Docker, make sure you go ahead and start it. I'm gonna delete DB because I had already created, I was testing things out, so I'm gonna delete the information that is there. Then I'm gonna come here and say network, Docker network RMDB. It's gonna delete that network, and then I'm gonna say that Docker network create DB is gonna create a new network. Then after that, I'm gonna say Docker run name, which is the DB network that we have created, running at 5432, and then it has created the network DB. Remember, we created a folder inside our desktop, and this is the path where we're gonna create some Postgres information. Gonna create Postgres. I'm gonna send some Postgres inside there. So as you can see, if I right click and go to the file itself, you're gonna see this is the path here. Okay, so this path here I'm gonna copy, and I'm gonna show that this path is the one that is here, C cap user htm/desktop. So once I click enter, you see that it has created Postgres files inside the DB data. Okay, so we have Postgres inside our computer. Then after that, I'm gonna paste this. You see, the network has already been created, and it's in running at 5432. Okay, and you can also see the image has been created. The next step, I'm gonna paste this. This is gonna connect our network DB to our Postgres. Okay, so we're gonna say Docker run, just copy exactly the code the way it is. So as I click enter, you see it's telling me to provide a password for Postgres. Then after that, I'm gonna provide the password for Postgres, and then I'm gonna say create database, and then this Facebook here was the database that we're gonna create. So I'm gonna type Facebook, then I'm gonna click enter and give it some minutes, and then it's gonna create a database. Then after that, I'm gonna say /c to connect to our database. Okay, /c Facebook to connect to our database. As you can see, you're now connected to database Facebook. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and start our application. But before that, let's give our table a name, because we created a table inside our database. So let's give it a name. Very important, actually. So let's give our table name. Okay, so we're gonna call it Facebook table, I think. Here, Facebook. Okay, Facebook data. So check the syntax, correct. Then this is the Facebook. Okay, then after that, let's run our application to see if it's connected to our database. So as you can see, there you go, the table has been created inside our database. The computer is running at Tomcat port 8080, as you can see inside our application.yaml 8080. Starts started Hickory pull and also completed successfully. And then this is Postgres. Okay, and then we can see our table here. So as I told you, this ID here is this one here, and then our email and password, everything is in there. So it's been created successfully inside our database. Okay, so I'm gonna use Postman to try and send some data inside our database and see if we're gonna be able to do that. So this is Postman over here, used to test whether your application is working or you can be able to send data inside our database. This path here, api.v1.user, is this one that we created here inside our request mapping, and we are running it at localhost 8080. This is the information that we're gonna send inside our database. So I'm gonna click on body JSON and then click on send. As I click on send, you see that there's some logs that have appeared inside our Postgres. So that means it's working. So the next step, we're gonna create our front end application, and then what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna type, to be able to create our front end application, I'm gonna type node version, and that's the node version. If you don't have node version, go ahead and install it. Then we also have npm version. If you don't have npm version, go ahead and install it. And then npx, we have node, npm, and npx. Make sure all those are installed inside your computer. The next thing we're gonna do is now create our front end application. And how we do it, we're gonna say npx create app, then front end. Okay, and then click on enter. Oh, an error. Oh, okay, I know the problem. So I'm gonna say again, type the same code, npx, and then come and change here and say react, create react dash app. So it's gonna create react application. Give it some minute to load the necessary files inside your application, and voila, that's it. Then we're gonna go ahead and say cd to front end. So type cd front end to start to cd inside our folder. Then after that, just type npm start, and it's gonna start our application. So give it some seconds. It's gonna start our front end application. And as you can see, running at localhost 3000, and you can see front end application is up and running. But we have to do a little bit of changes in here so that we can be able to configure everything to the way we want it to be configured. So in app.css, this is what is running, what you see here. Okay, so this is the css that is running that. Also, we have this inside our app.js. We're gonna go ahead and inside return, we're gonna go ahead and delete that information. This we have that one, delete it. And so because we're gonna write some information in there. Okay, so go ahead and delete that information and leave it like this. Okay, then after that, inside our index, so this app is being powered by this app here, so we inject it inside here. So this is where the app is running, inside our index.js. Okay, so we have to import that file inside there so that we can be able to run our application. Okay, yeah. So
Okay, so assuming that you have your backend up and running and everything is configured, and you have created this user controller that does a post mapping to our class over here. Okay, so let me just delete this first. Okay, so uh, yeah. So assuming you have this, okay, and everything is configured correctly. So what we want to do is that we want to connect our API to our front end application, okay, running on React, okay. So what we need to do is make sure you are running your front end. Make sure you go ahead and um, start your front end, import it, okay, by saying npm start. Make sure your front end is up and running, okay. Mine is up and running, as you can see. So I have been able to install front end inside my system, okay. So the first thing that you need to do is create a file. I have done it, I've done everything. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and explain step by step. So we want to connect this API over here to our front end application, okay, running on React. So the first thing we're gonna do is that navigate into SLC. Okay, so we're gonna have this here. So navigate inside front end, then inside front end, navigate inside the SRC. So SRC is where we have our file applications over here. So the first application that you need to create is a client.js. So create a file, new, and then create a file and name this file client.js. So inside client.js, I have this application. I have this. information here. Actually, it's this client.js. No, this one here, client.js. Okay. So I have this information here. So we're gonna start with the first information that is up here. So I have configured everything, but I'm gonna go ahead and explain so that you can be able to know what this file does. Okay. Now this file, first we have an import statement that brings in a function called fetch. Okay, from the library called unfetch. Okay, so this function help us make requests to the server. Okay, next we define the function. Okay, we define the function called check status. So we are defining this function called check status. This function takes in response as input. Okay, it takes in response as input. It checks if the response is successful, meaning the server responded without any error. Okay, checks to see if the server responded without any error. That's why we're saying it checks if the response is successful. Now, if the response is successful, it simply returns a response itself. Okay, it returns a response itself. So it's check if the response is successful. If it's successful, it returns a response. Okay, okay, itself. So if the response is not successful, meaning that there is an error, the function creates a new error. Okay, so it's going to create a new error object and sets the error message to be the status text of the response, as you can see here. Okay, then after that, it then attaches the response to the error object and rejects a promise with the error object. Okay, so it rejects a promise with the error object. Okay, then this means that if the error is an error, okay, I mean, this means that if there is an error, the function will not give us the error message. Okay, so after the check status function, we have down here, we have the function called create user. Okay, so this function takes a user object as input. Okay, user object as input. Inside the function, we use fetch. Okay, function we imported earlier to send the post request to a special URL, which is this one here. And this special URL is the one inside our API over here. This one here. Okay. So basically what happens here is that after the check status function, we have a function called create user. Let's go back here. So we have a function called create user, which is this one here. This function takes a user object as input. Okay. And then inside the function, we use the fetch function we imported earlier. Okay, here we imported it up here. Okay, so we're using the fetch function that we imported earlier to send a post. Okay, so we are sending a post request to this URL over here. Okay, on the server side. So we also provide some headers. Okay, over here we also provide some headers, and headers is information about the request, including the content type as JSON. It's as JSON over here. Okay, including the content type as JSON and the method as post. So this is the method here. We also include the user object as the body of the request. Okay, body of the request. Okay, uh, which means we are sending the user information to the server. Okay. Finally, we use the then method over here, and on the fetch request, to chain the check status function to it. This means that after the request is made, the check status function will be called with the response. If the response is successful, it will be returned. If there is an error, it will be rejected and we will get an error. Okay, that's what is happening here. So basically, in simple terms, this is a code. This code over here fetch data from the server. It sends the user object to the server to create a new user, and it checks if the request was successful, okay, or if there was an error. If there is an error, it tells us what went wrong, okay. Then this is what's happening inside here, the client.js. Then our next file here is gonna be what we call notification. Okay, so here we create some few notifications. So we have a success notification. If you send information inside our database, we're gonna see a pop out information saying that the information was successful. So we also have error notification if there was an error. Okay, and also we have if not notification, or also we have warning notification. So I created a folder called notification.js. Okay, and then I wrote this code here just to handle notification. Then after that, um, let's go to app.js. So app.js is where I created a form. This form here, okay, what it does is that it has an email where a person needs to input the email and also the password here. So it's going to be email and password, okay. Then you can click this button here to log in, okay. And once you click on login, it's going to submit the information inside our database, okay. And this function is here, okay, where we have on finish, uh, we set submit as true, okay, and then we create a user over here, okay. Then the console logs and says user added, and the success notification from this folder here comes in. So the success notification says that, let me open. Success notification says that the user has been added successfully. Okay. Then after that, if there is an error, when submitting the information, it's going to catch an error, and then it's going to say error notification. You'll get this notification side that saying that there was an error that was created and there was an issue here. So what we do is that we're going to create this notification.js. Then after that, inside our app.js, we're going to import error notification and success notification from this notification over here, this file over here that we have created. Then after that, we need also to style this form here. We have to style it up, okay? And for us to be able to style this form here, we need to create another file called loginform.css, okay? So this here contains the CSS file that is used to like style our form. As you can see, these are CSS code, okay. I'm going to provide all this code, okay, if need be. So if you want all this code, actually, just let me know, and then I'm gonna create a GitHub where I'm gonna post all these codes that you need, okay, and then you can try it for yourself. Then after that, go back to app.js, and then we will import this login form.css inside our application. We actually don't need this one, so I'm gonna take this one out. Okay, this one here, this CSS here was the one that once you install your front end, this is the one that is running. This CSS is used to run your front-end application once you install it, but we don't need it because we are doing lots of changes over here. Okay. Then we also import more information from anti-D. Okay. And this one will just format our form file over here. So basically what you need to do here, you need to create this client.js over here. And this one, as I have written some comments here, this is the method that will get all the user students from the backend. This one here. Okay. And then over here, two, this method will check if this if to see if the response was successful. This one here, and also if the response was successful, it will return a response. Okay, so this is what happens over here. So what you're gonna do, you have to create this file here, okay, and also create this one here to connect to our API over here. Okay. Then after that, create some CSS file. Okay. For our application, for our form here, just to format our form so that it can look good. Then after that, we also have login logging no 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 notification, so to be able to get some notification if the success was successful, if there was an error, if not notification. Okay, and also warning notification. Okay, so I'm going to provide these codes. If you text me and if you need this code, I'm just going to post them inside the GitHub. Okay, then after that, down here, because we need to connect our application to our back end. So what we're gonna do here is that if we scroll down, let's go back to back package.js. So we need to create a proxy. So our backend system is running on HTTP localhost 8080. So I want you to write this inside package.json. I want you to go ahead and write proxy, okay, and then type this one here. Just put a comma down here and type this one. This will help us connect our application, send information from front end to back end. Okay, good. Then after that, I think you also need to go ahead and install. Let me see. So you also need to go ahead and install, um, let me see if we have this. So you need to go ahead and install this here. Okay, npm, install this here. Okay, and fetch. Make sure you go ahead and install this one here. So click on enter. So once you install this one, if you go back to your package.json, you're gonna find it here. So this version is the one that I installed here. So make sure you install this one. Then let me see what else you need to install. Okay, some anti-D. Okay, as you can see inside our package.json, we have this anti-D here. We are using anti-D because we are getting some forms from anti-D library. Okay, great. Then after that, what I'm gonna do is that I will go ahead and say then I'm gonna start my application and see if I can be able to send some data inside our database through the front end.
So let's go ahead and install and fetch. So give it some time to install and fetch. Then after that, we're gonna go ahead and install and fetch, I think here. Then after that, we're gonna go ahead and say npm start, and then it's gonna start our application. Yep, that's it. So our application is running at localhost 3000. So that's our front end application. So I'm gonna try and send some data inside. I'm gonna add my email. So actually, the one what I told you earlier on, you have to make sure that go back to package.json. You have to make sure that we have this configured, as I told you earlier. So proxy, and then we have it's supposed to be localhost 8080, you know. So it's gonna be localhost 8080, http localhost 8080. Because this one is very important if you want to communicate with the back end, okay? And our back end is running at 8080, so two ports running differently. So start your back end application, okay? Then after that, go back to your front end application and cancel, control C, and then start npm so that it can take the changes. Then run localhost 3000. So great. So let me put it like, let me create two windows like that too, so that if I send some information, you'll be able to see logs taking place inside our backend. So you're gonna see some logs being created over here. So let me add my email and my password, and then I'm gonna click on login, successful message, and you can see some logs over here, and then you see there's a user added successfully, the successful message that appears through the notification. So there you have it. Then after that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our terminal, and I want us to type connect to your DB, go back to your DB, and then connect /c to DB, which was Facebook. And then after that, I want you to write select star from Facebook, okay? And then you will see our email and password. So that means we are able to send information from our front end to our back end, okay? Yeah. So if you like this video, man, just subscribe to this channel, drop a like button, man, drop a comment, man, you know, support your boy, you know, and as we continue to create more and more videos. Thank you so much. I'll see you later.